Welcome to another edition of Patriots No Huddle. Steve Balistieri, Mike Diabate, Derek Havens, brought to you by PatsFans.com. Your host, as always. We're here to recap the Patriots going 4-2 in Week 6 of the 2025 NFL season, coming up victorious in New Orleans against the Saints, 25-19. Sure, there were some bumps and bruises, but ultimately, Mike, they got the job done. Your initial reaction to the game and how the Patriots came out today with a win.
Yeah, 3 in a row. I mean, what better can you ask for if you're a New England Patriots fan? And look, the effort today was not perfect, but at the same time, you also have to look at it as maybe being perfect for this team. Anytime that they've been faced with adversity this season, say for a couple of games where they weren't able to overcome those, this team has been resilient. They've come back from difficulties, from questionable performances, from very questionable officiating performances, which I'm sure we're going to get into today, gentlemen. That was an aberration on the field at Caesars Superdome today. But bottom line, the New England Patriots made plays when they needed to make plays, both on offense and on defense, and even on special teams. I think you're starting to see the beginning of something special here in New England. And it's really fun to watch if you're a Patriots fan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I believe this is, I'm going to look this up while we're doing this live here. I have to look it up, but I'm almost positive this is the first 3-game win streak they've had since 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So I have to look up that. But Steve, over to you, boss. Oh, you got to go for a second. Okay. So or are you ready or no?
No, I think he was correcting us. I think he's trying to tell us that
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Steve,
I was correcting you. It was 2022.
Oh, it was 2022.
2022 was the last time they won 3 in a row.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I thought it was 2019. I like I said, I haven't gone through it. You know, the game's only been over for a bit, and honestly, I was hanging out with my daughter after the game, so I am watching Baker Mayfield continue to ball out a little bit here with Red Zone on my living room TV. But yeah, 2022. But still, either way. It's been a while, even if it's only been a couple seasons. It's been a while since they've won 3 in a row. They keep stacking them up. Great win against the Panthers, big win. Then a huge road win against the Bills. You go up 2-0 on the division. And then, yeah, the Saints are out of conference, and they're not a great team. And yes, it was a little competitive. I would argue a little bit more competitive than it should have because it was one of the worst officiated games I've seen in a long time. But I don't like it's lame. It's lame to blame officials, but there was a lot of bad calls in that game. And but I think Steve, I don't know what you want to take away from this game. And there's a lot to take away, and we're going to talk about it all. But I think my 2 biggest things, Steve, 3 biggest things. I think stacking 3 wins together, I think, is cool. Just because they haven't done it in a couple of years. Okay. Then you have the Drake May factor. He continues to get better, and he's now had over 100 passer yard rating for 6 weeks in a row. 1,522 yards, I want to say, on the season. I don't have it right up in front of me. 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I think his ability that he's kind of created for himself to pick and choose when he runs. Versus, I'm not talking about throws on the run. Design. I'm talking about there's a lot of plays in this game where I think he would have put his head down and just ran last year. But I thought he was more calculated, in this. And I think his third down decision-making continues to shine through in these last couple of wins. And honestly, I didn't think the Saints played a terrible game. You and I spoke at half. And I think, the Saints' pass defense hasn't been horrible. Of all the things they've had, it hasn't been horrible so far. But they had open holes, and they were taking advantage of them. And this is a kind of game, Steve, that I think the Patriots might have lost last year. But I think that shows the growth in last year to this year. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Look, Drake May also had 114 yards wiped out with penalties that weren't. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
This game today was a nightmare scenario for the NFL because, when you get into bed with all these betting sites and all this betting money and the bookies in Las Vegas, because everyone talks about, point spreads and the money's on this and that. Today was a nightmare scenario.
I bring it up almost every Wednesday.
Because I'm here to tell you today was one of those games where if you were just a fan that got dropped on the planet Earth from Mars and were watching this game, you'd say this game looked rigged to me because those penalties were ridiculous. And I was watching, and the more it went on, the worse it was getting. That penalty against Stephon Diggs late in the game that wiped out a 51-yard pass, that was incredibly poor. And then the very next play, you're talking about a blatant defensive pass interference on Mac Hollins, and that all of us, they're just waving that off. No. And it was like it was all one-sided all game long. And tell me that the money wasn't on New Orleans in Vegas this weekend, because this officiating crew deserves everything that's coming its way. And that was the biggest thing I took away from this.
You know what, Steve?
Drake May aside, because I thought Drake May once again was absolutely fantastic. And I didn't like some of the play calls in the second half, but when the money was on the line, he was fantastic. That ending drive there where they got the ball and then the official ruled Booty out of bounds. I mean, come on.
That touchdown throw he threw to Booty was so nice. I mean, he had some really good throws in this game.
He had a couple of nice throws to Booty.
I can't wait to go back and watch the all 22.
Yeah. They were resilient. We knew the Saints were going to come out. And play. They had won last week. They were at home. We knew they were going to give them a tough game this week. It was just in the cards. We knew that was going to happen. I didn't like the way they played defense in the first half. I thought they were far too passive and they were giving up everything underneath. Look, when the game was on the line, they came through, and especially with Drake May, especially when you're looking at the lack of a running game this team has, and that really bit them today, because this game could have been over a lot sooner.
Yeah, I thought the worst part of the game, Mike. I thought the worst part of the game was the Patriots' ability to run block. I thought that was, if we're talking about, the penalties are what they are. Were there some penalties I thought that were fair? Absolutely, but there were a lot of BS penalties too, and we can sit here and be upset about it. And I certainly was. Luckily the Patriots won by 6, and I took the Patriots minus 5.5, but that's a different story for a different day. So, but I think if there's a lot of positives to take away. You can sit here and say the Saints are one of the worst teams in the league, that the Patriots should have, just dominated them. But look, and NFL is not transitive property, okay? But I am going to kind of use it here in this case. Even the Bills, who are a very good team, struggled against the Saints. I think the Saints can be spicy sometimes. I thought Spencer Rattler had a couple of throws that were pretty bad, but overall, I don't think he did that bad. I thought he had some good decision-making at times. And the Patriots' lack of a run game and lack of ability to run block. I was watching the game with my father, and he's like, man, Ramondre is struggling so hard. And I'm like, let's watch the play again. He's getting hit like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They were not able to clear almost any lanes. Henderson was able to squeak through for a couple, but usually his runs are like 4 and 5 and he goes down quick. But Stevenson, they couldn't get it going. And I thought that made them one-sided. Luckily, Drake was that much better. But I think overall, at the end of the day, you're looking at this game and saying the Patriots came away ultimately with a win. And Drake continues to excel, and you're seeing the development there. So those are the positives, but we can still talk about some of the negatives too. And I think the run blocking is, to me, top of the list.
Yeah, without question. I think you're right on the money. And look, bottom line, you can talk about the progression that this offensive line has made, and they have progressed. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like this is not a better line this year than it was last year. In terms of pass protection, huge growth when it comes to the New England Patriots offensive line, and they deserve every bit of credit for that. But if you're not blocking for the run, you're only really facilitating half of your offense. And right now, they've been very fortunate that Drake May has been able to mitigate that with a solid passing game. Who would have guessed at the beginning of the year that Drake May in the passing game would be bailing out the running backs? I think we all thought, gentlemen, and I know I
The
did,
opposite.
that it would be the opposite, that it would be Stevenson and Henderson and Gibson and guys like that would be bailing out a new passing offense in New England and maybe getting some growing pains along the way. They've looked very efficient, and that's because of the pass blocking that they're getting up front. But that's a very interesting point, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. Steve, I wanted to circle back to something that you said earlier with regard to defense. And I don't believe the Patriots played their best defense of the season in the first half. Reminded me an awful lot of the bend, don't break Bill Belichick days. You see a lot of that in what this defense put out there. The Saints only converted 3 of 9 third down attempts. Patriots were able to limit them to converting only one trip in the red zone. And you also look at what they were able to do. New Orleans, 5 scoring drives in this game, but only one of them resulted in a trip to the end zone. So in that regard, yeah, the Patriots held when it counted, but that's not the way this defense is predicated. And I think if they were taking on any other team this week, I think they might have had, well, almost any other team. I won't say any other team because there are some dismal teams out there that are a lot worse than what they face today in the New Orleans Saints. But if they were facing formidable competition this week, I think they would have had a tougher time winning this game because of that. That's something that's got to be addressed and looked at. They've got to get back to their identity under Mike Vrabel, under Terrell Williams, which is push it uphill, foot on the accelerator, pedal to the metal, whatever you want to call it. That's how this defense is predicated. I think they have to get back to that. Once they do, you'll find synergy on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they started off the game right, very aggressive. They came on a corner blitz and they got caught. And Chris Olave had was a 53-yard pass play, and after that, I think they got a little snake bit in that first half because they were afraid of getting the play behind them. And they were allowing these quick passes underneath. And, the Saints kept moving the ball down the field with ease. I mean, those throws were far too easy. I thought in the second half, they started to play tighter defense. And you saw the results. They only gave up 1 field goal in the second half. And, the throws weren't as easy for Rattler after that. And you saw the results of that. I thought, and it's possible that it didn't have anything to do with that initial play. There was just maybe that's how they planned on approaching this game. But that first half, was not their best defensively, and they still had trouble getting home with the pass rush, but I thought overall in the second half it was a much better effort. They even forced the turnover there, which the officials, in all their wonderfulness, ruled that he was down by contact. But luckily, that was bailed out afterwards.
Yeah. Quick question on that before we move on, my friend. And I think you'll, I don't know if you're going to be like-minded in this with me, but do you think that the injuries and the health of the defense going into this game may have resulted in them being a little bit extra cautious? Don't forget, Milton Williams, a late addition to today's injury report with an illness. We don't know how effective he was. We expect more information to come out on that. Mike didn't really address it head on when we spoke to him after the game, but also no Jalen Hawkins in this game, no Anthony Jennings, no Keon White. I know Keon's kind of been the punching bag here in New England for a little bit, but this is still a man that can make plays and is an aggressive defender by nature. Do you think that could have played a role in that today?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And plus, Harold Landry got dinged up a little bit. early in the
Boy.
game. That was very concerning. And
He came back and made a play after though.
Um, but overall, again, I thought they did a really good job on the Saints. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job on the Saints running game. Held them to 73 yards.
Yep.
I think their longest run was 8 or 9 yards on the day. And, you'll take that, especially with a team that has Alvin Kamara. So,
Absolutely.
It wasn't all bad defensively. And they held them to under 20 points on the road. And, when you hold a team under 20 points in today's NFL, you should win.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think Caleb Von Chason for the Patriots, I thought he had maybe his best game of the year. I mean, again, I have to go back and look at it, but I thought he was effective today. Milton Williams, I'll have to go back and look at it. I'm sure he got, I have to assume with an illness, he got some fluids and, before the game. So, it wasn't their best game there, but to Steve's point, I mean, the running game wasn't really the issue. I thought Robert Spillane had a pretty good game as well. I had him for a few big plays, and on the back end, they were able to make some things happen. Marcus Jones, I think, continues to be kind of like I don't know how to describe him. Like he doesn't have the prototypical size. And maybe you don't want him to be like your traditional just slot corner. Maybe he's not a top 3, but he definitely belongs in the defensive backfield. And he's an athlete that plays bigger than he's listed, and he's able to go ahead and show some explosiveness at times, not just on special teams, but if he's around the ball. And he's a sure tackler, and I think he deserves a shout out as well. From that standpoint. So I thought that was good. I thought, overall, offensively, guys, we already talked about Drake. We've talked about a couple different guys. I didn't hear Will Campbell's name mentioned a whole ton. I'll have to look at how many pressures he allowed. But I do think that Kayshon Boutte was able to go ahead and have a nice day. For the Patriots as he continues to come on. And that's kind of a sneaky thing too, because I think he could develop into a really solid receiver too, Mike. I think, I don't think he's going to be, I'm not saying he's Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. I mean, those guys are elite and special. I get it. But I just don't think he's a number 1. I'm not sure he's a number 3. I think he's a solid number 2. And him and Drake have developed a nice rapport. And I thought you saw that and it was on display today.
Oh, without question. Absolutely. I mean, you look at what Kayshon Boutte was able to do, and I wrote about this a little bit for Sports Illustrated, and the article will either be up tonight on Sunday if you're listening, or probably Monday morning, about him being a homecoming king this weekend and really kind of coming into his own in
5
front of the
receptions,
LSU
93
crowd.
yards, 2 touchdowns, and had 40 members of family and friends in attendance.
Absolutely.
In his
And you
hometown.
don't want to see the bill of what that looked like. Someone asked him about that post game, and Kayshon's face is just like, yeah, a big one. And that was it. He just said, that was enough for him. But, this is someone who's taken a lot of life's hits and he's turned it into something positive. And you have to respect that. And you have to admire that in the way he conducts himself. And the one at a time, one day at a time, working to get his goal in place and be sure that he's able to conquer it is something that Kayshon's done all throughout the season, even into the offseason. Let's not forget that coming into this season, he was cloaked in trade rumors or release rumors. A lot of people were just thinking that Kayshon was just not going to be a fit here, and the Patriots were better off moving on from him and keeping other receivers in the fold, or just essentially cutting ties with him because they had guys like Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, and they thought that he was essentially someone whose skill set was redundant and had run his course. He's proving everyone wrong this year, and he's doing it with solid plays, doing it with much improved route running. His strength was definitely showcased today. You saw him just rip the ball, and can keep it in his hands and just, not relent to his defender. That takes strength, that takes ability, his athleticism to remain in bounds for what I believe was the game-sealing catch that allowed the Patriots to run the ball down to the 2-minute warning. Every time the Patriots needed a play today, they went to Kayshon Boutte and he delivered. You need guys like that.
Yep.
And to have him in the fold, being able to do it week after week is something really special for this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And,
it's good to see
and
him
don't
grow.
forget,
It's good to see him grow too. Go ahead, Steve.
and don't forget Pop Douglas, 71 yards and a touchdown.
Absolutely.
Should have been 132 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But we'll
Back to
leave
back
that
really
where
good
it
games
is.
for him, Steve. By the way, after a
And
little rough
the
month, back to back good
the
games.
one big thing I also took away from the passing game today was I wrote about this. Their secondary receivers. We know what Hunter Henry can do. We know what Stephon Diggs can do. Those are Drake May's, preferred targets. But today it wasn't those guys. It was those secondary guys, and that was really nice to see. And those guys, they put forth the effort. Actually, Diggs should have ended up with over 80 yards himself. So again, we can talk about the referees. I'm not going to forget this one for a long time because
I mean, look, again, we could sit. I think we're all in agreement. I'm sure everyone listening is in agreement. That it was a poorly officiated game, and that we're pissed about a lot of the calls. Because it did feel it felt like every single time the Patriots did something good in this game, that you were just waiting for laundry on the field. You're just waiting for the flag. And it got really out of hand. I thought really one-sided. But I mean, I'd be more upset about it for two reasons. For one, if they lost, they being the Patriots, obviously. And for two, I've seen a lot. I don't know if you guys have been on Twitter much, or excuse me, X. I'm always going to call it Twitter. Sorry, Elon. I'd be more upset about it if they lost, and also that there were a lot of national people that were also saying the same thing. I mean, I mean, it was all over the timeline. It was like, this is one of the worst officiated games ever. These are some horrendous calls, and it wasn't like it was, us being biased about it. It was just flat out bad, and I don't care if that's the Patriots or any one of the other 31 teams. I just think it was just bad. I thought it was a bad look for the league. And I think it, you're kind of wondering, you're like, wait, what, how is that a thing? Like I go back to the Diggs offensive pass interference thing constantly because I just can't wrap my mind around it. They're allowed to have contact. If he extends his arm and that elbow pushes out, that's when you call OPI. His arm never extended out once. He put his arm on his back, but it stayed bent. And he never, like, if I've watched the video 100 different ways. I just don't really get what the referee was seeing there. And I also think that the fact that they can't look back at that and say, hey, you know what? These guys are big, they're fast. It's hard to make a judgment call. Some guys get it wrong. We can look back at it and make a, we can look back at it and make a correction. If we think there's like an issue. The fact that they can't do that is unreal to me.
The fact that they called that on Diggs
been arguing forever.
and then the very next play
Mac
Hollins.
Yep.
And that is a clean play. After what you called on Diggs, the very next snap on 3rd and 27, they aired it out again, and Mac Hollins has his arms knocked down while the ball is coming through them. And that isn't pass interference. I mean, come on. This was ridiculous. It was beyond ridiculous.
As far as negative things go from a play standpoint, I was a little well, I should say this. I'll kind of layer it up. I was impressed with the way the Patriots played the run. Again, I thought Spillane and Ellis had a pretty good game. I thought they both made plays at times. I thought Tavai struggled, whatever. But I thought I was a little surprised with Chris Olave getting 98 yards. I didn't expect him to have as big of a game as he did. I thought they would have left Christian on him. But at the same time, Juwan Johnson, the tight end for the Saints, is having a really good year, and to hold him to 15 yards, 2 receptions, when the Patriots have kind of struggled with tight ends at times. I thought
Well,
Mike or Steve, go ahead. I thought that was
yeah,
I thought that
a
wasn't
lot
bad.
more than half of Olajuwon's yardage came on the first snap of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. After that first snap of the game, he had, what was it, 44, 45 yards. So,
Yeah, so I
I
guess
mean,
he had 43 yards the rest of the game, or no, 53.
yeah, well, he had 53 on the first snap. He ended up with, I think, 98.
Yeah,
So,
98. Yep.
he had 45 yards for the rest of the game. And he made some really good plays, there's no doubt. And he's a very good receiver. So
Mhm.
I didn't take that as that big of a negative. I thought, again, you look at, their tight end, they've had trouble covering tight ends. He wasn't a big factor, and then he ended up fumbling, which was a big turning point in the football game. And, Robert Spillane, once again, 11 tackles. You got to love that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought he showed his impact there. Um, Mike, any point that you want to bring up that we haven't discussed yet,
I wouldn't say that we haven't discussed yet. I would
or if
just
you want to
circle back
elaborate?
to. Oh, I just want to circle back to the game that Drake May had. And I think that
Yeah, let's do
a
that.
lot of people will be looking at a lot of other aspects of this game. And look, we can have our own fun with the officiating. Steve, I thought you'd enjoy this. An interesting poll that I just pulled here from X or Twitter. The former Manhattan District Attorney at Better Law on X. And I'm quoting him verbatim here. This is a great one, Steve. This entire crew from the Patriots Saints game should be fired tomorrow. An absolute joke to make the calls they have made and not call DPI on the Hollins play. Embarrassing WWF level officiating. Ouch. So from that perspective, you are in good company. Yeah, exactly. Yep, boom. You are out of here. How this all shakes out, folks, we don't know. We will know in the course of the next couple of days. But in terms of you being upset about this, my friend, you're in good company. So go ahead and harbor that. Hold on to it because I think we all are here in New England. But getting back to May, the thing that continuously impressed me today was this kid's ability to turn water into wine. He knew he had to carry an underperforming running back core. And the runners continue to have difficulty and find their identity in this offense. A lot of it is because of the run blocking, and that needs to get better. But Drake's ability to find the time to make the big play, to find the ability to make the big play, the Saints tried to force him several times out to his left. He loves to roll out to his right. When he did, great things happen. But he's also, I think, and Derek, you brought this up earlier, gaining the temperance to know the wisdom, to know the difference between forcing the ball and making the smart play. You're seeing that gap go down to a very, very little gap now in Drake May's game, and that speaks volumes into the tutelage that he's getting, but it also speaks to the maturity level that he's playing with. Cannot say enough about this kid. For a good stretch there in the first half into the second quarter, and the first half into the second half, he was playing near flawless football.
Yeah, I think this game kind of encapsulated. I'm not gonna be able to say this word. Encapsulated. Basically, put a showcase on for where his growth is. Mike Giardi tweeted this out not too long ago. Luca, stop it. Sorry, my dog's barking. Drake May was 3 for 4 for 107 pass yards and 3 touchdowns on throws of 20 plus through the air in this game versus Saints. He has a 157.9 passer rating on throws of 20 plus air yards or more this year, which is the best in the NFL. So, Steve, you and I talked at halftime when I was about to order pizza with my father. And what did we talk about? And I said, I don't know how they're not just like I said, abandon the run and just let Drake sling it somewhere between 10 and 20 yards because he was killing the Saints and then like in intermediate throws all day long. And right now you're seeing, Mike, going back to a point that you said, we're seeing him, we're seeing him make smarter decisions when he runs, when he tucks and runs, or if he's just rolling out. He's keeping his head up and he's looking downfield. He's making smart decisions on third down in the red zone, cutting down on turnovers, and he was really slicing up the middle of the field. Steve, you have to feel good when you see these things because yes, it's awesome that the Patriots are winning. Anyone who's on the show and anyone who's downloading the show or watching the show later would say, Steve, that we want the Patriots to win every game. But we know there's a development there. But we're seeing the development and those things, red zone turnovers, third downs, intermediate throws. And he was great at intermediate throws over the middle, at UNC as well. But now we're seeing it down the sidelines and we're making him be more specific about his decision. And I think the biggest thing right now is his decision making. That's the biggest leap that we've seen, I think, from last year to this year, 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah, I first of all, I hope the pizza was good. So
pizza was excellent.
Yeah, but because I'm always leery about West Coast pizza. Sorry, I'm an East Coast guy.
I'm with you. Marblehead House of Pizza is my favorite pizza of all time. Shout out to Venezia's out here in Scottsdale.
Yeah,
probably like one of two or three.
That being said, I thought Drake May, he's so far ahead of where we thought he would be at this early stage of the season. We all talked about this, all through the spring and early summer, that we thought it was going to take some time for the passing offense to get into a rhythm. Well, I think they're well ahead of where we thought they would be, at this point. And you have to love that. And again, I said I didn't like some of the play calling because they kept hammering their head against a brick wall with first down runs. And then, in the second half, and they were constantly behind the sticks. I kept, yelling at my television, which makes no earthly sense. I know.
It's a man thing.
It's like, why not play action pass on first down? And take some more shots down that, intermediate part of the field, which was there all game long. And rather than, I know they want to get the running game going, but at the same time, this game was still in doubt. And I think you could have put them away if you had just opened it up a little bit more, first down play action, take some more shots down the field, keep that defense on their heels. But as far as May's performance, I think he's fantastic. He's so far ahead of his progression where we thought he would be, and I think the sky's the limit for this kid, especially with Josh McDaniels calling the offense. If they get any kind of complimentary running game going, this offense is going to be hard to stop.
I think Drake May. I don't think this is hyperbolic to say, and I'm going to make a statement here. I agree with everything you just said. I think Drake May is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now, and I'm not saying that is a. I'm talking about as far as how the season has gone. Okay, so you have to take it all. If you're talking about just like everybody's healthy. I think you start with the big four: Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow. Those are the big four to me. Then you can start having a conversation. And I think if everybody's healthy, May's probably in I think it's safe to say he's somewhere in the 9 to 14 range. I think he's a top half of the league quarterback. He's growing into that. I think just the way the through 6 weeks has progressed. If we're taking that 6 weeks in a vacuum, I don't see how you don't put Drake May in your top 10. I think him and Baker Mayfield are the two front runners for MVP. Probably put Dak Prescott right there too. And, I'm sure people will have comments on that, but I don't see how you don't have that conversation with those three guys, because what they're doing right now is different. And yeah, Steve, I totally agree with you on that stuff. Um, Mike, I guess over to you. What are your thoughts on Steve's take? And um, I guess as it comes for the Patriots from this game, is there anything that we have glossed over that we need to focus back in on?
I don't think really there's anything that we'll gloss over. We'll come back to that in a minute because I do want to give a well-deserved tip of the cap to a defender who I thought had a great game today, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Steve,
Sure.
as for your take, I think you're right on the money. I think that you look at what this offense has become under Josh McDaniels, and you look at the progression that this team continues to make. It's something that will only continue to get better if that complementary running game does indeed come full circle. Yeah, they're going to be very, very difficult to stop because this is a team that can beat you deep. We've seen Drake May do it several times. They can beat you in the intermediate areas of the field. They get great production out of their tight ends, two great receiving tight ends, and guys that are getting better at blocking by the day. So they'll increase that as well. Once you start to see this running game come alive, it opens up so much, and it's going to really force Drake May's repertoire to expand in ways that maybe even he didn't see coming. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think that complimentary running game is going to be huge for the New
Mike,
England Patriots.
before you bring up the defender, okay, because I want to I want to piggyback off something you just said. And
Cool.
Steve, I want to say this to you as well, because you kind of mentioned this a little bit, and you're talking about the Patriots running game. I think, is it fair to say, Steve, that Josh McDaniels, I would say, as an offensive coordinator, we both have spoken very highly of him, and I think he does a really good job with quarterbacks. Okay, but I do think sometimes there's two things that he does sometimes that I'm not crazy about. Sometimes I think he gets too cute, which to me is kind of subjective a little bit, because you could say if the players execute it the way they probably did in practice, then it's not. But he does, when it shouldn't be dressed up as much. They tried to do a fake reverse screen pass, today. That was another flop. But I think one of his biggest flaws as a coordinator, Steve, I thought, is that sometimes it's like he kind of pounds his head against a wall. And it was like, he's running up the middle. He's running up the middle. And I'm like, Stevenson is getting hit before the line of scrimmage almost every single carry. So it's like, why don't you, adapt and do that? Now, I'm not saying that's every game, but I do think sometimes he gets caught in that kind of sand trap there.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and again, sometimes I think he overthinks it and, fakes himself out. When they moved the ball the second half, they got the kickoff, moved the ball right down. They had that 1st and goal, and I was worried that they were going to try to pound it in. And on 1st down, I'm like, again, play action pass, Drake May, to Hunter Henry or to Booty, get the touchdown right away and put these guys in the rearview mirror. Because frankly, I was afraid that they were going to turn the ball over with the running game down. When they had that 1st and goal, I
can't believe they haven't done some like crash down blocks, Steve, where like the offensive line, like let's say they're going
and like the
right.
quick tosses that we saw that were working earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
They had those toss cracks or whatever they call them. Those seem like they were working. They're not using those. And just another thing, real quick, on an unrelated note, shout out to Efton Chisholm, right? He got his first NFL action today. He returned 5 kickoffs. It was good to see him out there. Yeah, I mean, he didn't play. I don't think he played any offense. But the fact that, with Antonio Gibson out, he obviously stepped up in practice and showed that they can trust him, returning kicks. And good for him. I was glad to see him on the field.
6 receivers they had active today, Mike. And Mike, a player that's not going to get talked about probably almost at all, is Kyle Williams. And I have to look back. I'm going to look back and rewatch the game, and I'll do it obviously before our show on Wednesday. And it will probably be, around 11 or 12 Eastern, midday around lunchtime for those wondering. And I, I have to think that there was a couple opportunities. It seems like there's been a couple opportunities the last couple weeks, including today, that he's beaten his guy and getting separation. He just hasn't really linked up with Drake yet. And I'm not hitting the panic button at all. I think that he's going to be a value add somewhere. I just don't think the connection is there yet. But I did see him pop off the film a couple of times. And I think one of his catch, I think he had a catch that was actually called back by a penalty, shocking. Unless I'm totally misremembering. And to your point, Steve, I know people were excited about Chisholm. You got to, you find they pull him up, and I think he's going to have a little bit of a niche role, but it's going to be a gradual build for him. But you see some of the ability there, yeah. So, Mike, any thought on the receiver room in general?
I think, other than the fact that you've really, I think, captured everything, the Patriots receiver room is deep, and that's something we haven't had the luxury of saying around here in quite a few years. This team has players that can win, their game in the deep game, like Stephon Diggs, and you saw him be able to do that. Booty is another player that can really win any area that he's in the field. I still like the addition of Matt Collins to this team. I think having that veteran presence and his ability to make big plays when needed are an important part of this team's ability to take that next step. I know people are very eager to watch what Chisholm can do in this offense. And like you said, they're very eager to watch what Williams can do once unleashed. I think he can be an incredibly effective weapon. But it's going to take a little bit of time. They're going to the veterans right now, and they're relying on the guys they know can make the plays, because it's part of Drake May's development, and you have to do that.
And you see, Stephon Diggs wasn't a team captain, but pregame, who was the one guy in the middle of the entire team huddle, getting guys ready to go. You can tell the respect and admiration that the team has for Stephon Diggs. He gets the guys going. You can feel about him however you want, and I mean not you, the general you. Okay, and look, we all know that Stephon Diggs can be a little bit of a, let's call it, spectacle. But he, and sure, you can have questions about the longevity of how he's going to be with this team, but so far, you can see him firing up the guys and guys looking up to him, and he brings a little bit of a bite to a puppy. And I'm talking about the team as a metaphor that really is just barking, and they're learning how to bite. They're growing up, right? And he brings a little bit to that. Matt Collins, to your point, does the same thing. Brings leadership, comes to work every day. Yeah, he's a little quirky, but he makes some big catches. He brings you a presence on third down, jump balls, red zone, special teams. Right. You can kind of see that going. I think Kayshon Boutte has made a really nice jump. We talked about Drake May year one, and his jump. You're talking about guys jumping year to year in terms of progression. I would put Boutte in that conversation. And, Steve and I talked about Pop Douglas having a massive year. And I think now, I don't want to overstate it, but he just had two of his best games of the season in back-to-back weeks. So maybe it's kind of clicking for him a little bit. Kyle Williams, the speed we know is going to come. Like you said, separation is a big thing. And Drake May has the ability to go ahead and throw it downfield. So you need to get those intermediate to long passes going, because they haven't had those explosive plays, which is why I highlighted the 3-for-4 earlier that Mike Giardi tweeted out with Drake May going 20+ air yards down the field, because they weren't having chunk plays. Now we're starting to see guys put it together. And guess what? We're only in week 6. We still have 2/3 of the season to go. Still a lot left to go. And this is only 6 weeks. This is only 6 weeks into a new offense, Steve. And seeing Drake May's composure, decision making, progression, and how the offense is clicking, you can see Josh McDaniels' handprints, Steve, on this offense.
Absolutely. And, you look back to the passing game last year at this time. It was like, watching paint dry. And, McDaniels has come in. He's energized the quarterback. The kid's confidence is through the roof right now, and he's seeing everything. You're watching him progress to the point where everything seems to be slowing down a little bit now, right,
Yep.
for him. And that's when all good things start to happen. He's seeing the field, and the nice thing is he's using the entire field.
Yes.
A lot of young quarterbacks, their first and second read, they're watching that side of the field. This kid's using the whole field. He's using all of his people. I think they had 7 or 8 guys, catch passes today. That's the kind of thing you want. And I think this all stems from McDaniels, and I am so glad they brought him back. And I thought that was the best thing that was going to happen for Drake May this year, and I don't think many people would argue with that right now.
Yeah, they had 7 guys catch passes today. Booty, Douglas, Hollins, Diggs, Henry, Henderson, and Hooper. So he did target Stevenson, but it didn't go down as a pass. So he's spreading the ball out. He almost looks more comfortable throwing over the middle and down the sidelines than he does in the flat, which is kind of interesting. And that was one of the things that people talked about. I remember Dane Brugler mentioned this, and Steve and I know we've talked about this before. When he was at North Carolina, it's not normal for college quarterbacks to be so comfortable to throw over the middle. Usually it's like the easy check downs, the side, the dig routes, whatever. May likes to attack down the field. And if he gets into a rhythm doing that, that's when you start to see the offense really pick up. So, yeah, the run game, I would say, is still an issue. I would definitely say that's still an issue. And I'd like to see a little bit more from the offensive line in the run game as well, because I think they've struggled. But I will say this: as far as Will Campbell goes, I think it was another good week for him. Again, I'm going to look back at, but we didn't hear his name too much in this one, and so I thought that was fair. Quig asked a good question, and he asked if the Patriots need to look outside for a running back, or do you get, or we could get something for a day 3 pick. I don't think they're trading Stevenson, Quig. I don't know if you guys have any feelings on this. I don't think they're trading Stevenson, and I don't think they're ready to put too much on Henderson's plate. I don't think Henderson is like a full-time running back. I think he is a guy that you want to get the ball in his hands as like a scat back role, third down role, and I don't want to say it like as a utility player, but he's not a full-time running back. Let's put it that. He's not a bell cow. Okay. I think they're gonna roll. I think they're gonna roll with running back. What they have. I could see them potentially bringing in a veteran if they weren't crazy about Terrell Jennings' performance, but that's going to be something that they can only really evaluate in-house. I don't think Jennings really stood off the page, but I don't think he did anything where you are going to just start bringing up the bring up the phone book and start looking at, free agents available. I said last week, the Patriots were going to tell us what they thought about Terrell Jennings based on what they did. Once Gibson went down for the season, if they had brought in 2 or 3 veterans, we had listed off a couple of guys that made sense. But if they were going to bring in Jennings, then they obviously felt more confident, in the guy that they already had. You know what I'm saying, Steve?
Yes, I do. And, look, the bottom line, they have Stevenson. They're not, he's not going anywhere. I think Henderson is, he's in his rookie year. They're going to find a role for him like they did with Shane Vereen and, all those other guys like that, Kevin Falk and, and so on and so forth. I think, they probably need to invest in a trade. Let's call it what it is. You know, they're just not getting that burst from their running backs that they need. And I think that, especially if they keep winning and they have a shot at making the playoffs, then you're going to need that. You're going to need it moving forward. So I think there was rumors about Alvin Kamara, but I don't see the Saints trading him right away, but if at all. But anyway, guys, I have to run. Unfortunately, I have to go. So I'll let you guys finish off, and we'll talk real soon.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, my
yes,
friend.
go ahead, and Mike and I will shut it down here in just a minute, and then we'll get together on Wednesday. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, Mike, as we wrap up the show, as Steve has to get going, I'm going to give a final thought. I don't know if there's, well, before we get to a final thought, I don't know if you want to share a final thought on the game or not. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to touch on one more time?
I wouldn't say necessarily touch upon, but my final thought was going to be a tip of the cap to Marcus Jones, who I thought had a phenomenal game today.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
We know his prowess as a top shelf returner. There's no question about it. He made national headlines as a result of his ability to return the football. This kid is really blossoming into a really good corner, especially in the slot. Finished the day 5 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 1 sack. That was the first sack of his career. Came in the fourth quarter, crunch time, taking down Spencer Rattler, 3-yard loss to force a field goal. Really, I think this kid has done everything that the Patriots have needed him to do and then some. I understand it's in a contract year, so he's going to be looking at a situation where he wants to maximize his ability, and he's doing that. But this is a phenomenal athlete with breakaway speed, one of the better return weapons in the NFL. But those traits as a corner and a potentially good corner, a good solid number 3 option in nickel packages and in the slot, you can't ask for much more than what Marcus Jones has given to you. He is a phenomenal football player, and he's getting a chance to showcase that now for the first time in a couple of seasons. So big time tip of the cap to Marcus. I was really happy to see him do well today.
Well, I always think, and I think I might have mentioned this earlier. I certainly tweeted it out. I think with Marcus Jones' case is, yeah, he's a little physically limited, at times from a height standpoint, and that height and that length can hurt you. Like he has the speed, he has the lateral ability. We know that, but like John Jones, for example, like. When he was on the team in the slot, he had the speed, he had a little bit more length, he had a little bit more range. But I think Marcus is starting to come along a little bit more as a corner. He's not perfect in the backfield, but he's someone who you would like to have in those packages. And he's a tackler for his size. Like you would look at his listed height and weight, but if you turn on the game or the film or however you want to do it, and you look at him, he wraps guys up and he brings them down. And I thought today was a great game for him. And I think, which is, one of the reasons why his teammates voted him a captain is because he does everything right. And I think the team's going to have some serious conversations about Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez contracts as soon as the league year starts in March. So, those are gonna be conversations. I mean, they need to get these guys locked up. I think they can do Marcus now, if I'm not mistaken. But I know Christian. I think they have to wait until I want to say March 3rd is the league year. So early March, when the league year starts, that's when I think they can, get to Christian Gonzalez. And just by the way, ask the Cowboys if they should do it sooner rather than later, because he's going to get paid. So that needs to be done as soon as possible. Let's do final thoughts, Mike. Again, I'll have you take us out as always. We are recording this Sunday evening, 8:00 Eastern right now, October 12th. I'm not sure if it's going to be posted tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, but we will get that done, and we will be back recording right around 11:12 Eastern on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. Looking forward to discussing that game against the Titans, and we'll have all that discussion then. As far as final thoughts for this game, Mike, look, the officiating was horrible. It's annoying as a fan, and I get it. I think it was annoying for anyone who knows the game of football because you just felt like it was just not properly officiated, you know.
Mhm.
But I don't want to lose track of the fact that we're 6 weeks into the season and we're seeing growth from May, and we're seeing some young pillars of this team step up, including the progression of your young quarterback. And through 6 weeks of the season, with a new coaching staff, pretty much all the way top to bottom, not everyone, but almost all the way top to bottom, and a quarterback in his second year and entering a second new offense, we're seeing him take a leap. And now you've matched your win total for last year, and we're 6 weeks in. And I think 2 wins in the division, a nice win on the road. That's a, you know, it's been a while since we've been able to say that, and I just like to see the growth of that. Look, I'm not saying you should book your ticket for the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl, but I like their odds of kind of surpassing my expectations, you know, and getting to that median mark. And I do think they have a chance for a wild card if they can stay healthy. But I certainly think it's on the table that they can get to at least 8 wins, which,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe we're not getting the duck boats out for, but that would also take them to combine their win
Right.
total from the last 2 seasons. And most importantly is, again, Drake May, we're seeing progression and growth.
Right.
That is your quarterback for the next decade plus.
Yeah, it's so well said. I think that really lends itself into what my final thought was going to be is don't let any disdain that you have for the way this game was officiated take away from the performance that the Patriots had on the field today. This run defense continues to improve. They started out the season sputtering a little bit, but they're starting to find, I think, their rhythm, and they're starting to find an ability to control some of the better rushers. And Alvin Kamara, for all of the season that he's having, where is he on the trade block? Is he not on the trade block? He, came in with injuries this week, and there were all kinds of rumors that maybe he would play or wouldn't. Alvin Kamara is still one of the better running backs in this league. He's a guy that can receive out of the backfield as well as anyone, and he can run the ball. When you hold a rushing attack that contains him to only 72 yards on the day, you're doing a great job. So Patriots fans should be very proud of the way this team responded and took away what your opponent does best. Offensively, grown by leaps and bounds. The pass catchers are playing with so much confidence. Drake May is playing with an
Well
incredible
said.
amount of confidence and well deserved. And because he's doing the things that it takes to be a winning quarterback in this league. All of that should really be the takeaways. I can understand maybe more disdain if this officiating had cost the Patriots the game. And I think a lot more people would be angry and upset. But I'm pleasantly surprised to see that so many Patriots fans are pivoting their attention away from the negative and embracing the positive once again. That to me is what this team is doing to this fan base. It's bringing life, injecting much needed life back into Patriots fans who love to see their team succeed and love to see their team do well. And at this
And
rate,
keep this in mind too. Keep
yeah,
this in mind, Mike, too, is that, you know, they come off a huge win at home versus the Panthers. Okay. And I know the Panthers aren't a huge win, but like in terms of just like the score and the way it was just a dominant performance.
right.
Then they come up with a actual huge win on the road, primetime game against the divisional opponent, and you stack that up. And there were some people, shout out to friend of the show, Fred Kirsch. He said earlier this week he was a little worried this Saints game could be a trap game. And
Mhm.
look, you can look at it and say that, you know, maybe the Patriots aren't that in that spot to have a trap game, but when you're playing back-to-back road games coming off 2 big wins,
Right.
and you're, you know, I mean, I think New Orleans is a pretty good, you know, environment for football. I would say that it would be easy for them to lose this game. Now, if let's say the officiating was on the up and up, and they were lost the game, you know, I could say I could see that scenario. You know, if it was the way it went down and the Saints came back, yeah, we would all be bitching, you know, for lack of a better phrase. But the Patriots now stack those wins together, coming off 2 big wins, going on the road again, getting ready to go on the road the following week, and you're able to go ahead and put those together, that to me shows stabilization, and that starts with Vrabel going on down, and then poise from some of your younger players, which includes Drake May, of course.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. And again, folks, it's about moving forward. And that's exactly what the New England Patriots will do. And now staring them in the face for week 7 is a team that Mike Vrabel knows very well. He knows these guys pretty well. He knows this organization. Yeah, this is going to be a revenge game of all revenge games for the new HC of the NEP coming up this week, this week 7 matchup coming up against the Tennessee Titans. And we're going to have this covered for you right here on Patriots No Huddle. So don't forget, like, subscribe, follow Patriots No Huddle wherever you get your podcasts to make sure that you're getting the latest episode as soon as it's available. On behalf of our good friend, our Patriots Paisan, who unfortunately could not carry the show out with us today, but dropped more wisdom and counsel than anyone could have imagined, and that's why he got a chance to leave early. He did everything he needed to do, folks. We'll definitely look forward to having Steve Balistrieri back with us here on Wednesday. Of course, on behalf of my good friend, the great Derek Havens, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Patriots No Huddle.